Well, to find out what's behind this move by the European Union, I spoke to Jonathan Broughton. He's a television media senior analyst at IHS. Now, I began by asking him about the timing of this decision.
I think this is happening now because these players, which we're talking about, the online subscription players, have become large enough to present a bit of challenge, especially when it comes to pay TV, where they're comparable sizes, and the audience they're now drawing from linear content. So, of course, the audiences that they're drawing from linear television, which is where most of the European cultural media content is currently broadcast, is now quite significant and something that maybe needs addressing. Obviously, those legislating in Europe feel it's worth discussing this more widely.
Now, what about Hollywood? What sort of pushback do you think we might expect from them?
So much of the content that's going to be affected by these protectionist legislation are in fact going to be the smaller, more independent international types of shows. Hollywood has also always been extremely popular in Europe, especially when it comes to the sort of large blockbuster movies that we know and love that draw in the largest audiences. These are typically going to be unaffected by this, as online video providers will want to keep these in their library. So less so Hollywood being affected by it, more so independent producers. In addition to this, if Hollywood really wants to sort of push back on this and make sure that their content is within quota, they're perfectly capable of filming and producing content from the European continent, which would qualify them under the European quotas.
So what are some of the strategies? Say you're one of these independent producers, or you're an Amazon, or you're a Netflix. What can you do about this proposal?
So there's a couple of things. The first is, if you want to keep all your catalogue as it is, you can invest in new content. You can look to broadcasters, which currently produce around 50% of their content as European content anyway, so there's a smorgasbord to choose from there. If they don't want to invest in new content, they can take a slightly more negative angle and, in fact, adjust their current international library, so they can cut off the tail end of sort of US or international content that's mainly not trialing so well with their current subscribers.
Now, as with any new proposal, sometimes you're going to have the big winners and you're going to have the big losers. Who would you say are the real losers in this situation?
The real losers potentially could have been the smaller players of more niche content, players like Africa TV or Crunchyroll, people who have specialist or cater to minority audiences. Now, the EU to some extent has thought about this and has said there will be thresholds in place where smaller players don't have to provide so much quota, so they can continue to provide niche foreign content. However, as they grow, it's still a little bit unclear about what those thresholds may be. So as they become more successful, they may start running into these barriers. So in this case, growth of these niche players can be stifled.
Now, let's shift gears slightly and look at the real purpose behind this. The EU says it's protecting cultural diversity and really wants to boost its domestic producers. But does that actually ever translate into sales, or is that just really comes down to jobs?
A bit of both. So definitely in terms of producing content, there's clear evidence that these quotas, especially when applied to broadcast media, definitely do involve more of the local industries than previously. A lot of whether this will happen in Europe really depends on whether the international players decide to play it positively by investing in local content, or towing the line in terms of quotas and just trimming their current content libraries to sort of almost bypass this.
If you like what you just saw, follow us on social media and visit our website, cctv-america.com.